This is an audio-only episode. Most of us want to make a difference in this world. At the end of our lives, we want to know that what we have done here has counted for something. We may think that's impossible, though, given our humble condition or other circumstances. Blessed Stefano Bellesini teaches us that we can make a difference, no matter our circumstances. He shows also that our efforts will be remembered if our reason for doing them is the greater glory of God and His church. For all of this, he is a saint who really should be better known. He was born Luigi Giuseppe Bellesini in 1774 to an aristocratic family in Trento, Italy, where the Council of Trent took place. In fact, his baptism took place in the same church as the council occurred. Now, what's interesting about his family is that because they were rich, you would expect them to have hired domestic help. Instead, his Belgian mother did all the manor's housework herself. His dad was a lawyer, and if all lawyers had been like him, we would not have lawyer jokes. For school, his parents sent him to the local convent of San Marco, which was run by the Augustinians, and he and his siblings loved this place. They loved walking through the cloister, listening to the birds as they darted about its gardens, touching the old cold columns holding up the cloister's arcade, and listening as the friars' chanting of the divine office crept its way through the cracks of doors and windows and into their ears. Another reason they liked San Marco was that the monks were warm and joyful, and their love for the Eucharist was such that it made other people love it too. So when Stefano's older brother Angelo presented himself for his first communion examination, Stefano begged to take the test as well. He knew all the answers, and his strong desire to receive our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament persuaded the monks to let Stefano make his first confession and first communion with Angelo's class. Interestingly, his mother had protested to the priests that since he was just 7, he was too young. Back then, most people didn't receive until they were between 11 and 14. But the priest replied, "The desire of God is not measured by age." All of these formative experiences at the school made him immensely attracted to the religious life. And so, at age 16, in 1790, he joined the Augustinian friars and received holy orders at age 23 on November 5th, 1797. Now, this is remarkable. Just before his ordination, he had contracted a serious illness, and he was so weak he couldn't even walk. He wanted to be a priest so much, though, he had people carry him on a stretcher to the church for the ordination. He could have simply waited until he recovered, but he did not want to delay his priestly ministry for another second more than necessary. At the time of his ordination, Napoleon was making wars throughout Europe, and he had invaded and conquered Italy. One of his first acts was to suppress many convents, including San Marco. Rather than sit idle at home with nothing to do, Father Stefano made it his apostolate to look after and promote the education of young people. This is what led him to open a free school open to all classes of society, which was something very new. And because he wanted his students to have not only the best education in secular subjects, but to also have a solid Christian formation, he was very picky about the people he chose as his teachers. His melding of the spiritual and secular aspects of education achieved such great results, and his work in this regard was so sincere that when the Napoleonic Empire crashed and the Austro-Hungarian Empire resumed control of the area, the government made him the inspector of all schools in his native city. Blessed Stefano took this job very seriously because he didn't want to let in anything that might corrupt students' young minds. While the government entrusted him with this great mission, it would not entrust his order with the beloved convent of San Marco. In 1817, distressed, even broken-hearted by this, Blessed Stefano defected to the Papal States, walking south to Rome with nothing but his breviary. When the Austro-Hungarian government learned of this, it tried to entice him back with more pay and a higher position. It even threatened to confiscate his family's property. However, his mind was set on going to his orders general at like a headquarters, and nothing would turn him back. In that same year, his great concern for education led his order to make him its novice master. That is not what he wanted, though. In Trento, where he was born, the major landmark is the Castello del Buon Consiglio, the Castle of Good Counsel. He had a great devotion, therefore, to the Madonna del Buon Consiglio, the miraculous icon of which is in Genazzano, about 30 miles south of Rome. The Augustinians ran Our Lady's shrine there, and that's where he wanted to go. That's where he had prayed to God to let him go. So, why was God making him wait so long? Don't we get that way sometimes? As novice master, he sometimes showed a strong temperament. Nonetheless, he kept working at being kind and friendly to the novices. Part of that was easy because he had a good sense of humor and could make people laugh. Furthermore, when he spoke, he always tried to make sure that what he said had some wisdom in it. Understanding that bodily mortification would help him overcome his faults, he ate little, drank wine only on occasion, and even went so far as to make his bed out of just a few planks of wood. As Christmas 1822 approached, his superiors transferred him to Città delle Pieve, about halfway between Rome and Florence, to instruct the novices at the monastery there. In Rome, he had loved and had been loved, was kind and had been treated kindly. His time in Città delle Pieve, however, was one of great misery. He was strict, and his students protested this. To make matters worse, the abbey's prior went so far as to scold him loudly and angrily in front of everyone. In response, Blessed Stefano did not get irate or talk back to his superior. Instead, he met this rebuke with humility and silence. He didn't admit guilt, but he didn't protest his innocence either. As a result, some in the monastery came to express sympathy and bewilderment at his plight. Rather than defending or feeling sorry for himself, he tried to help them see the superior's perspective. This humility so greatly impressed people that soon they were coming to him for spiritual direction. Even the local bishop made him his confessor. In 1826, Pope Leo XII decided that the Augustinian monastery of Our Lady of Good Counsel would be populated by any Augustinian monk who simply asked the permission to go there. Faster than one could say, "May I please?" Stefano applied and was accepted as novice master and arrived there in November. 5 years later, at age 57, the Augustinians made him pastor of the attached parish. Remember, he had always had a great devotion to Our Lady of Good Counsel. Now he was pastor to the very parish that possessed the miraculous fresco of this devotion. God didn't do things in Blessed Stefano's time, but he did give our saint his heart's desire. Father was a very active pastor, for instance, initiating programs for children and youth, and he called upon wealthy friends he had made in Trent and Rome to provide relief for the poor who were overburdened by taxes. But he didn't just give the poor money. Instead, in the winter, he would personally carry wood to them, even though this caused him great pain due to a hernia. Blessed Stefano also brought them water and oil and lamps, and he even gave his own clothes and blankets on occasion to help people simply survive. Although his flock was faithful, they also had many ingrained superstitions. As a result, he had to do a lot of catechesis to help them not believe in a quote gospel other than the one I handed on to you, as St. Paul puts it. Furthermore, amidst all of this pastoral activity, he was still the novice master. But even so, he never neglected his students for a single second. No ordinary man could do this on his own. Blessed Stefano was an ordinary man, and he knew it. Therefore, when he wasn't working, he made sure he was praying. And with the icon of Our Lady of Good Counsel so close at hand, he spent many hours before it beseeching the gifts of strength and wisdom for the duties before him. In 1840, an intense cholera epidemic broke out. Cholera usually comes from drinking contaminated drinking water, and normally the contaminant is fecal matter. It is highly contagious. That is, it is easily caught, but it is not transferred from person to person. Back in the 19th century, however, no one really understood this. Some thought they could get it from merely being around other people. So when other ministers showed more concern for their own well being than for their patients, Father Bellesini sent them away. From that point forward, he did nothing but take care of people. You can imagine the scene. Once one person is finally taken care of and resting comfortably, that's when another person needs help, and then another. And if you're a priest, not only are you giving help to the sick, you're also giving last rites to the dying. So it was with Blessed Stefano, running here and there, back and forth, everywhere, just to try to keep up. And because he had such love and concern for his flock, wanting to save as many as he possibly could, he never looked after his own health. Plus, he was drinking from the same contaminated water as everyone else because they didn't understand how cholera was transmitted. And that's how he caught the disease too, and it killed him. The Augustinians initially buried him in the monk's common tomb. 7 months later, however, when they went to retrieve his corpse, only the nose had deteriorated. Some 33 years later, he was still incorrupt. By 1904, though, the year of his beatification, water seeping into the tomb had caused his flesh to decay. His feast is February 2nd. Blessed Stefano Bellesini would have been a success in life no matter what. He gave his all, no matter the task before him. But he did so not for himself or his own glorification, but for the greater glory of Jesus Christ and his church. And that is why we remember him today. Will those who follow us remember us and our deeds? What do you think? What lessons does his life teach you? I'd like to know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for listening. Please do subscribe, like, and share. And also, please help to support this channel by becoming a partner with me at Patreon. See the link below. You may also want to check out my books on the saints, for which you should also see below.